afternoon. We have a very eminent speaker with us today. He was born in Looc, Romblon, and his parents are both teachers. He is a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy at Annapolis, USA with the degree of BS Mathematics and Operations Analysis. He obtained the degree of AB Political Science at the University of the Philippines. He also obtained his Master in Business Administration at the University of the Philippines, where he graduated class valedictorian. He is a voracious learner of so many things, as shown by the numerous online courses he took and is presently taking, from global warming course, economic policy making, global economy business, global trends for businesses and society, climate change, and many more. He is a 6th-term congressman representing the Legislative District of Parañaque from 1992 to 2013. Among his notable achievements include the passing of landmark laws such as Republic Act 8185, an act amending the Local Government Code establishing the Local Government Calamity Fund, Republic Act 8551, the Philippine National Police Reform and Reorganization Act of 1998, Republic Act 9729, the Climate Change Act of 2000, Republic Act 9851, the Philippine Act on Crimes Against International Humanitarian Law, Genocide and Other Crimes Against Humanity, Republic Act 10530, the Red Cross and Other Emblems Act of 2013, Republic Act 10575, the Bureau of Corrections Act of 2013, Republic Act 9993, the Coast Guard Law of 2009, and many more. As a public servant, he also served for 3 years as Postmaster General, where he was awarded 10 Outstanding Young Men for Public Service Excellence, and served for 3 years as National Security Advisor. He is the President of Del Sol Energy CGS Inc. and the Chairman and lead convener of the Movement and Alliance to Resist China's Aggression, acronym MARCHA. Ladies and gentlemen, let's now welcome a leader in solar power, a vanguard of Philippine sovereignty, a public servant by heart, Congressman Roilo Golez.
Thank you very much, Peter, for the very kind introduction. Thank you. And I'd like to thank the Rotary Club of Makati for again inviting me to your very prestigious gathering. As a fellow Rotarian, I've spoken before this club many times. The first time was when I was Postmaster General, and I think this must be my 3rd or 4th time. I'd like to thank my good friend Eddie Yap for making this possible. Thank you, Mr. President, and to the other dignitaries here, and all my friends here. I see a lot of friends in the Rotary Club of Makati, especially, of course, an international dignitary of the Rotary International, Paeng Ichanova, friend from way back. Of course, I understand that last week your speaker was the Honorable Justice Antonio Carpio, who happens to be a collaborator of mine as far as the West Philippine Sea is concerned. We meet regularly together with a senior official. This is a triumvirate, a senior official of the Department of Foreign Affairs, and talk about the situation. He talks about the legal, the DFA would talk about the diplomatic, and I would contribute my thoughts on security. And today, I'll give you the latest on the West Philippine Sea. Well, you're familiar with this, of course. This is South China Sea, but I'd like to emphasize, because some people get confused They think that when we call it the West Philippine Sea, we have dropped the term South China Sea. No, the South China Sea is the bigger sea. The West Philippine Sea is that part of the South China Sea that we own. And this is as far as the exclusive economic zone is concerned, defined by this blue line. Of course, you know this. This is the 9-dash line of China, which is causing all these problems. I represent today Marcha, Movement and Alliance to Resist China's Aggression, an umbrella organization. We formalize all the many groups that have been conducting rallies in front of the Chinese consulate on Buendia. And when we speak of China's aggression, we talk of many forms of aggression. The more familiar would be territorial aggression, but we have environmental, social, political, and economic. Territorial would be 9-dash line, the reclamation projects that are undertaking now, and their grabbing of Mischief Reef and Scarborough Shoal, well within our exclusive economic zone. Environmental would be destruction of coral reefs in our area, harvesting of pawikans, sharks, giant clams, and illegal mining, black sand, for example. Social aggression would be, I think many know this, 90% of illegal drugs come from China. I understand some generals in the coastal provinces are raking in a lot of money and at the same time destroying the social fabric of the Philippines. And of course, the last one is political aggression. This is very worrisome, and I'll be talking more about this political interference in the affairs of other countries, possibly including the Philippines. And then the last one is economic aggression, the dumping of cheap, low-quality products. Some people are benefiting. You know, you can buy things cheap. But what we don't realize is that they're also destroying our local industry. My personal involvement in the South China Sea, or Spratis issue, goes back a long way. I was there the first time that the Philippine government deployed troops, weapons, equipment, and supplies. I was part of the secret mission, fresh from the Naval Academy. There's a picture when we landed there, and then while we were offloading troops and equipment. And the first time that the South China Sea became a headline material was when we complained about the structure that the Chinese built on Mischief Reef, well within our exclusive economic zone. It's about 130 nautical miles away from Palawan. China said, don't worry, this is temporary for the shelter of fishermen, don't worry about it, we'll be gone after a short period. But then of course they did not go away. And in 1999, together with Congressman Dana Rorobacher, I was on board a C-130 of the Philippine Air Force, and we flew over Mischief Reef and flew very close, and we saw with our own eyes frenetic construction activities there. And I stood up in the halls of Congress and warned about this, and now this is the result of the construction there. This used to be the temporary structure, but they converted that into a permanent structure. And on December 7, 1999, I stood up again in Congress and delivered a privileged speech, and I said, their target, it's not only Mischief Reef. Eventually, it is my considered opinion that they also want to take over Scarborough Shoal. And some people did not believe that. In April 2012, China finally grabbed Scarborough Shoal. And now this is the situation there. Some people are saying, maliit lang yan. It's only a small, just a few rocks in the middle of the ocean. Why worry about it? But let me tell you, this area here, it may look small from above, but this lagoon here is as big as Quezon City. So it's not small. The area is about 150 square kilometers. And if that is converted into a military installation, and I have no doubt that that is part of the master plan of China, that will be like a dagger aimed at our vital installations. It's very close to Zambales. In fact, it's part of Zambales. It's very close to Clark, Subic, and Metro Manila. And can you imagine a military installation right in our front yard? And just to show you what is happening now, it's not only a territorial threat, but it's also depriving our thousands of fishermen in the Zambales, Pangasinan area from doing their livelihood, which they've been doing for centuries in that part of the Philippines. And this is a video that came out in Japanese television. Excuse me. Sound. Pwede na? Yeah. But anyway, you can see what's happening there. Some Coast Guard, Chinese Coast Guard ships are running after our fishermen there using their water cannons. And during our rally last July 24, some fishermen from Zambales attended the rally and reported to the crowd there that some fishermen have been killed already because of the harassment being done by China. And some people, of course, are asking, why fight over small rocks? Well, they may look small, but when the small rocks are converted into military facilities, they are a potent force for harassment, for interdiction, and a dagger pointed at the Philippines. I'd like to remind that during the Second World War, a lot of activities happened when on the eve of the invasion of the Philippines by MacArthur's forces. They went from several little rocks like Guadalin, for example, all familiar names, until they finally landed in the Philippines. And one example of this is Ulithi. You know, Ulithi has an area of about an atoll with an area of about 3 times the area of Scarborough Shoal, about 1,000 nautical miles from Leyte. On the eve of the Leyte invasion, Admiral Hansey had his fleet there, and look at what could be contained in that small area. All the aircraft carriers there, battleships, destroyers, transport ships. So that is my way of saying that we cannot discount the fact that it's just a small feature in the middle of the ocean. Now let's talk of China's geography. A lot of people are saying China is big, that is true, but China, very surprisingly, suffers from a very vulnerable geography. You know, China is surrounded by many countries, and many of them are not that friendly because of the aggressiveness of China. It suffers from a very small, limited coastline, and they're almost landlocked because they're blocked by Japan in the east, by the Philippines in the eastern part, and of course the Malacca Strait here is a restricted area. And this is what we call the in the Navy, in the maritime sector, as sea lines of communications. What are sea lines of communications? These are very important for the maritime routes between ports, used for trade, logistics, and naval forces. It is generally used in reference to naval operations to ensure that SLOCs are open, or in times of war, as a hostile act to close them, in other words, to blockade them. And China is suffering from this. The Indian Navy can blockade China's trade passing through the Indian Ocean. A small but deadly naval force based in Singapore in the Malacca Strait area can paralyze China's seabound trade west of the South China Sea. Vietnamese submarines can wreak havoc on China's merchant marine and even the PLA Navy. and a small squadron